You are here with Plan Your Future with Skype for Business. I'm reading the slide for the last time. Oh, and I don't even have anything. Oh, I do have something to look at. Okay, good. So real quickly about me, I've been a Microsoft guy for my whole darn life. I've actually only been at Microsoft for a couple years. I have a deep background in voice and cloud and telecom and security and all that stuff, and it made me a perfect candidate for doing this. And, oh, what did I just do? Yeah. And I have some other exploits that make me a sick child, but it's a good place to be, and it's a good time to be in Skype for Business, that is for sure. Like the gentleman that just left said, these sessions were all yesterday. There's only one. My repeat session is today. I think there's actually a repeat of Miru's session that's tomorrow. But these are really key pieces, Skype Operations Framework and our Skype Preview program. These are things that are really, really important for planning your Skype for Business deployments. So I felt like you really needed to see these. And even if you go back and you watch these recordings, these ones are going very deep under the hood of my 20-minute session. Okay? So I'm going to tilt it this way so I can see what I'm doing. So before we go on, let's do a little quick quiz. Let's see if you remember your old school technology. What was the first Microsoft email solution called? There you go. Who said what? That was it, Microsoft Mail. Absolutely. Why does this matter? Who were the dominant competitors at the time? Do you guys remember? Dominant? Wow, that's pretty good. That actually came after one before that, which was, what's that? Netscape. Actually, there's one that's closer to that, which is GroupWise and Notes. So Notes became Domino, right? But yeah, those are all coming from the same category. Netscape was internet-based email and not necessarily enterprise mail, but you're totally right. At the time, in the late 90s, that was it, right? So, how's that worked out for them since then? Exchange rules the school, right? And now Exchange moving into the cloud, then it was going much different. Right? There are other competing messaging solutions out there, but Microsoft kind of owns it, right? So what's our competition now going forward for Skype for Business? And that's a really important one for us. We have telephony, so you think those are the ones? Maybe, kind of, sort of, right? They're important pieces to us. But if I'm being honest, it's really in the collaboration space because we're not just a PBX, right? We're a collaboration system. We're universal communications. So actually, those are really the things that mean a lot to us right now, okay? I'm going to go toe-to-toe with these folks, but I really care about these ones because those are the game changers just like us, okay? And the other important part is you'll understand why I'm bringing this up, but the collaboration pieces, they're complicated. It can be pretty tough to deploy. So when somebody says, I can turn on my Cisco PBX in a couple minutes, well, A, they're lying, but B, that's because it's not a collaboration system, okay? So here's your thought leader. A really, really smart person wrote this. Actually, that's not true. That was me. Saying that successful business leaders shift that conventional thinking from replicating what we had to visualizing and redefining what it is we could have. And therein lies why CTOs and CIOs make a heck of a lot of money, and they make really bold decisions. And it's a really important piece to our future, is that this is disruptive, this changes, and it's not easy. So let's talk about those keys to success. I had a couple slides in between, cut them out so we could get it in 20 minutes, now to be 22 minutes. So here is how you get Skype for Business and your users to the cloud. Key things, identify those key players. I'll talk about those. Assess those key personas and features. Complete that ROI and TCO analysis because the bean counters need to know that. If it doesn't cost less, then it's not going to fly very well. And plan, deliver, and operate. So how are you going to build this? What are you going to build? And how are you going to keep it running? The most important one in there is a tiny little word right here called executive sponsor. And that executive sponsor is the most important person in this equation. They're not your test bed. they're the decision maker. When they're on board, this thing works. Because you're going to be competing up against the telecom teams that have their Cisco sitting there. They're going to go, I have this whiz-bang call parking feature that you don't have, and whenever we turn on your software, it doesn't work, so we're going to go back to ours. But it's the executive sponsor and that thought leader that's going to guide you through those challenging times. They're the ones that have the big vision. You need to make sure they're on board. When they're not, and it's brought up through IT, it's likely to fail. So when we go, I'm on the Skype engineering team. I'm customer experience and deployment. So we're responsible for delivering Skype solutions to our key customers out there in the world and use them as our case studies. So we work with all the big boys. And when we don't have an executive sponsor, we will not engage. Simple as that. If we don't have an executive sponsor, it's likely to fail. So your account team. That's the next most important thing. They're the ones that are going to enable your licensing. They're the ones that are going to get things done. They're also the ones like does anyone, I mean, some of you are EPG customers. You're familiar with that term? Yeah? Enterprise and partner groups. So you might be a bigger company. You have a whole account team at your disposal. But as any Microsoft customer, you have an account team at your disposal. And it is likely that you're going to have a technical specialist in there helping you through some of these things. And they're the ones that can help you figure out what this is supposed to look like, how it's supposed to go, where it's supposed to go, and also make sure they broker those conversations. The enterprise and partner group are our larger customers, and I always call it, we connect the E's with the P's, the enterprise with the partners. So our job is to make sure that you had the right people at the table, including the consultant and the devices partners and so on. Very key piece. Those responsibilities you can see on the left. I shall move on to keep it going. And then I talked about your partner. If you think you can deploy Skype for Business all by yourself, you are likely to fail. I always said every time I'm in a room talking about Skype, there's about 19 different people in the room every single time. And they come from network, security, devices, endpoints, platform, infrastructure, and the whole thing. Everybody is always in the room. It is not an easy conversation to have. Hire a partner to help guide you through the process, please. When you do, it is much more likely to succeed. And on my team, Skype experience and customer experience and deployment, we are measured purely on success, not by how many licenses or anything else, but when we deploy you to success, we measure ourselves 6 months after that. And if you stayed successful in 6 months, we've done our job. So that's going to come through the help of a partner. There's also a little thing, SFP, aka.ms, SFP community. That's a new community that's out there. You want to go on there. There's already several thousand people signed up. And that's the same thing as your forums and all those other bits and pieces, where to find user groups. I run a user group in Southern California, where you're going to find that information. And that just helps you engage with everybody, all those other key pieces of talent and knowledge base and resource. Okay. Here's another good one, those ranger teams. I'm going to say right now, the executive and their admin assistant is not a ranger team, ever. Those are your people that love to mess with the stuff. They don't mind dealing with rocky times. They love to mess with it. They like having first cuts of software, even if it's kind of sort of broken. And as we start to put preview products into here, they're going to be the ones that are going to kick the tires on this, and they're going to help figure out how it works. And when they are active in the process, they provide that feedback back to Microsoft, so that way when those products get to GA, they work the way you wanted them to work. And if you don't think that's true, I can tell you, I have a number of stories how somebody had a comment, they reached out through the feedback engine, and a week later, that made it into the product, into the next version of the preview. So it's a very common occurrence. And the ranger teams are the ones that are going to be very active in that. Those key personas, I'm going to show you a couple of cool slides in a minute, but this is a real quick one. You have a bunch of personas out there. Basic user, enhanced user, you have that admin assistant that's going to be using advanced telephony. You're going to have those people that are road warriors on the road that are barely at their desk ever. What they call a deskless worker. There's a ton of those these days. You're going to create those categories. You're going to start putting people in those buckets, and I'll show you why in a minute. when I'm talking about deploying Skype for Business, you can deploy now. There is no reason to wait for call parking to show up in the cloud. It means next to nothing to your users right now. What you want to do before you get there is you want to resolve those issues and those questions. And I'm going to show you some cool little spreadsheets and some roadmaps, but these are the things you really need to focus on. That want versus need, that feature that that person thinks they really, really need, that might not. It's going to be that executive sponsor that's going to help decide whether they really do or not. Same thing with the real features versus phantom features. Whenever we are going in an RFP up against an Avaya system, and you put Skype up against Avaya, and it has this umpteen million features that are all super cool, and they go, okay, cool. Fill in the next column of your spreadsheet with Skype. And we have like half of them. And then what we do is we add on the bottom all the other things our product does that theirs doesn't do. And that's what I mean by phantom features, is there's all these features that exist in there that if you look at it in a bake-off, it doesn't look too pretty, but it doesn't take into account all the other things that it does. So you have to wrangle with that. All those falsehoods of the bake-off are really, really important for you to resolve. And you really want to do that early on and kind of neutralize that argument. But then here's my favorite slide. This is something that you work, oh, good, okay. I kind of got my hand slapped on Tuesday because I didn't put sample, not an actual roadmap, because this is the Ignite conference and not an NDA conversation. And these aren't actually real. They are examples of what it looks like. And we go through these with our customers. And we'll say, here, let's look at what you need. Here are all the things we have in our roadmap. Here are things that are existing. And we have real deep drill downs on each one of these if we need to. But what we're basically saying is, look, you have a knowledge worker that needs a whole lot less. You have an advanced user that needs more. And you have those critical users, like I had a auto manufacturer, starts with a T. They have their manufacturing floor. They have red phones on the wall. And that phone, that bat phone, has to work 24 hours a day. No ifs, ands, or buts. They never use them. But if you pick up the phone, it better make a phone call, right? So we're not going to move them in the early batch. They're going to move them later, right? We're identifying those key personas. Maybe that's a key persona called bat phone. Fine. And we know they're going to be later. But here's the interesting part about this, is about 80% of your users are knowledge workers. They have very little requirement. They could have mobility, very simple features that means you can move those now. You do not have to wait till 2017 and we have a new feature in there. You could spend all of your time moving those users now, and when those features show up, great, we'll get them to you. And when we go back to Exchange, if somebody doubts whether we're going to get something to you, take a look at what Exchange did, and you'll see that we are in Skype to win it just like we did with Exchange. We plan to dominate and win the collaboration game with Skype. Plain and simple. That's actually the team that I'm on, is to demonstrate what it looks like when it's done right. Here was a more of a detailed thing. We again, sample, not an actual roadmap. And what we did was we broke down, and we do this with our customer. This is actually a sample from a customer where we broke down all these little pieces, and things that they absolutely needed, they put down here. We discounted the things we did. We got rid of the phantom features. We put key things in there, and then we went through the spreadsheet of death to figure out whatever we didn't have, when it's coming. Those are fake numbers. Don't quote me on those. But this was really important for the thought leaders and the executive sponsors to make the right decisions. Okay? So they knew, well, okay, if we're not going to get that, great. We won't worry about that. And if that date slips, that date slips. That's what the executive sponsor's there to do. One of the last ones, TCO and ROI story. Like I mentioned with the intangibles in the bake-off, here are the intangibles in the not-so-common items of the TCO and ROI story. And those are really important ones for you to look at. Attracting talent, use that as an example. If you're looking for the best minds in the world, they probably want to be working with forward-thinking technologies. It is unlikely that they want to work with an old piece of big iron in the corner. It's just going to sit there and collect dust. They want to work in the cloud. They want to do those things. That's how you have a forward-thinking company. That's what your executive sponsor is targeting. Things like that are also are important items to consider when you're doing your TCO and ROI, even though we're still going to win on price. But these are ones that really, these are the ones as well that help the decision makers make the right decision with Skype for Business. My team wrote Skype Operations Framework. Has anybody attended any session or even heard of those words yet? Yeah? Good. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I hope it's almost white noise to you right now, because you should be hearing that all the time. If you hear Skype, you should be hearing Operations Framework. Okay? This is the methodology that my team wrote, and it basically says if you deploy Skype using the Skype Operations Framework, you will be successful. And our team is putting our money where our mouth is by going out and leveraging Skype Operations Framework on our customers and making them successful. So this is your playbook. This is your guide. This shows you what you need to do. You get a partner involved, and you do this together. Life's good. We swear. Adoption is the key to success. How are we doing on time, by the way? I guess I don't care. Oh, 4:22. OK, we're almost there. Adoption. You need to engage your users. They need to participate. Don't just throw it on their desk and say, here, you're using this today. Get them involved early on. Have them participate. There's tons of good training companies out there that can help people get excited and get interested. We used to have a thing called RASK, Rollout Adoption Success Kit. That's what that was. Now that is layered into Skype Operations Framework. So you'll see some of those same assets to help your users prepare and also help them get over hurdles when they're challenged. But this is a really important piece of the puzzle, because if they don't like something, they'll go, stop, let's do a WebEx meeting instead, and now you've lost them. And they need to participate, and they need to be part of that success story. Thank you. Engage in Skype Preview. This is how you get early access to new features that are coming. You've probably seen some of those. If you're a lot of Skype people here, you've probably attended some of those sessions already. And we even had something like custom policies in Skype for Business Online, which we've been dying for. And a friend of mine presented that session. She did a great job, but that's something that comes through the preview program. And we can start turning that on for you so you can start kicking the tires on it. So when it's GA, you're ready to roll. You want to engage in Skype Preview. Some people even buy a trial tenant or a test tenant that they will kick the tires on these features with. So that way they can see them work before they touch their tenant. Great. Whatever it takes, leverage Skype Preview. You must. SkypePreview.com. It's really simple. You go there, you sign up, you pick the things that you want, and then you invest those resources on your side to testing and participating in the product. And again, you get to provide firsthand feedback back into the Skype team, who will then integrate those features into the product. And so when it hits GA, it's more like what you wanted it to be. And I swear to you, it works. Let's see. Other than that, I think I'm just about done. I think I got it done in 19-something minutes. OK, rest of these are like advertising slides. I already said the Skype for Business community. This is the official slide. Just go to aka.ms/SFB community. Key takeaways, we talked about that already. I'm not going to bore you with that again. And those sessions again, repeat. One more. Yep, if you wanted to win a Rigel device, if you guys haven't seen the Rigel device, it is key to our conference room strategy. Go down to the Skype booth downstairs and go take a look at it. There's 2 dummy units that are from Crestron and Polycom, and then there's the Logitech that actually works. And you want to go look at that thing because that helps your conference room strategy work. I could spend an hour on that, so I'm not gonna. And let's see, Fast Track. They are one of our partners in helping customers deploy their Office 365 deployments to the cloud, so they wanted me to put that in there. And they wanted me to do techcommunity.microsoft.com, but I care about SFB community, so do aka.ms/SFB community. And there, eval. Happy Thursday afternoon. I hope you have a great time at the party tonight. Thank you very much, folks.